Hey everybody, I'm back with another video. So this is a tech channel for the most part, but this is sort of a fun one, right? This is travel. Recently went to Croatia for a wedding and of course we had fun at the wedding, but the place itself, wasn't on my list. I never really thought I'm gonna go to Croatia, but it exceeded all my expectations, right? Roman ruins, that's where a lot of Game of Thrones was filmed, right? So we saw where Jon Snow said goodbye, we saw King's Landing, we saw where the dragons hang out, right? So it wasn't just a wedding trip, it was a crash course in like 2,000 years of history. So I want to take you along for the ride, and I hope you really enjoy it. Like and subscribe, more content on the way. So where exactly is Croatia, right? I didn't know. We're on the edge of the Adriatic Sea, across from Italy, tucked between Central Europe and the Balkans. This whole coastline used to be part of the Roman Empire. Venetian traders came later, and if you sail straight west from here, you'd hit Venice in just a few hours. So it's a good mix of Roman roots, medieval walls, and coastal beauty. So what's really funny about Croatia is a lot of people have already seen it without knowing it. If you've seen Game of Thrones, you've seen Croatia. A lot of scenes are from Split and Dubrovnik, which we'll get into in just a bit. So first we stayed in Otroger. This is a little version of Split, right? So this is like a living museum. It's got stone walls, all these alleys, and it hasn't been touched in who knows how long, right? So it's like a living museum. It's really beautiful, romantic, and a lot quieter. So we spent a lot of our time in Split, and that's because that's where Diocletian's palace is. And if you don't know already, Diocletian was a Roman emperor. He kind of saved the Roman Empire for a while, and he persecuted Christians. So what's really ironic about the whole situation is his mausoleum is now a cathedral, and his temple is now a baptistry. So if you recognize any of this, that's probably because you're a Game of Thrones fan, but Diocletian's cellar, sort of underneath the palace, that's where Daenerys kept all her dragons. So that's sort of the most famous spot and the one that I sort of recognized right away. So we're walking around and we see some sphinxes, some Egyptian-looking sphinxes, and I find out they're actually from Egypt. And I dig a little deeper, and some of the stone that the palace was built with is from Egypt, right? So that's why it's so durable. That's why it's held up so long, and it sort of goes to show you how good the Egyptians really were, right? And it also goes to show you that Diocletian was smart, right? He went out of his way to bring some of the stone here because he wanted to live forever, right? He saw himself as a living god. So yeah, really mind-boggling stuff. All right, next we're getting into Dubrovnik. This looks like a Game of Thrones set the entire time, right? So there's these massive stone walls, they wrap around a city, and you can actually do a walk around the wall, and that's what we did. We loved it. It was beautiful. Yeah, so words don't really describe this one. The pictures don't do it justice. The staircases are really steep, so be careful of that. All right, so you probably recognize some of these spots, but if you don't, I'll call them out. That's the Red Keep, that's Fort Dubrovnik. That's where Joffrey threw his tantrums and Cersei held her councils. And that tower right there, that's where Tyrion schemed, overlooking the sea. And this little harbor, that's where some emotional scenes were, right? That's where some slaves were drowned. That's pretty sad. That's also where we said goodbye to Jon Snow. Very, very sad. So you definitely want to check out the staircase too. This is where Cersei did her walk of shame, right? So there's more than one staircase. They did a lot of camera tricks, so it's a little confusing, but check it out. You can definitely recognize it, right? And you wouldn't believe it, but the real history here, also exciting. This was Ragusa, a tiny maritime republic that somehow stayed independent for nearly 500 years. And they didn't do it by fighting everybody. They did it by getting along with everybody. They traded with Venice, they paid off the Ottomans, and they got along with the Catholics. And guess what? It worked. These walls never breached. All right, next up we have Fort Klis, and this place is insane. It's carved right into the mountains overlooking Split, and here's the rule. If you control Klis, you control everything you can see, and you can see a lot. This fortress goes back 2,000 years. First it was the Illyrians, then it was the Romans, then the medieval Croatian kings. And guess what? That's not it. It even became the front line against the Ottoman Empire for almost 2 centuries. You can actually feel the history here. The wind, the stone, the fact that whole empires used to collide on this cliff. So you probably recognize this place too. This is where the dragons were. This is Marine. This is where Daenerys Targaryen freed all the slaves. All right, so then we went to Solana, or Solon as it's called today, and it felt a little bit different. We felt like archaeologists sort of walking around. And it used to be the Roman capital of Demacia with over 60,000 people living here. Even Diocletian himself was born here. It had amphitheaters, temples, and early Christian basilicas. It was one of the most important cities of Rome. But now it's silent. There's no one here, just broken walls, broken sarcophagi, and olive trees. So this is where Christianity first took root in the region, and it's where a lot of the martyrs Diocletian persecuted were killed, even the bishop of Solana. But eventually, in the 7th century, Avars and Slavs attacked, the city was abandoned, and survivors fled to Diocletian's palace, and that's how Split became the city we know today. So it's interesting to see this place went from pagan to Christian, and so did Diocletian's palace, just a long time after. Alright, so that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the video, and Croatia's a beautiful place. I can't recommend it enough, and hopefully I'm lucky to keep traveling the world and making more videos like this, right? So like and subscribe if you like what you see. I appreciate you. I hope you appreciate me.